The snow fell steadily outside Emma's kitchen window, each flake catching the warm yellow light from her small apartment above the garage. She stirred her evening tea and watched the world turn white. December in Minnesota always brought harsh weather, but tonight felt particularly cruel. The wind howled between the buildings, and she could hear it rattling the old wooden doors of her detached garage below. Emma lived simply. Her teaching salary barely covered rent, groceries, and the occasional repair on her aging Honda. The garage apartment had been a blessing when she found it 3 years ago. Affordable housing was rare in this part of town, and the elderly landlord, Mrs. Chen, had been kind enough to let Emma pay what she could manage. As she sipped her tea, movement in the alley caught her eye. A figure hunched against the wind, moving slowly between the dumpsters behind the row of small businesses. The person wore a thin jacket and carried a worn backpack. Emma watched as he tried several doorways, seeking shelter from the biting cold. Her heart tightened. She remembered her father's words from years past: kindness costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable. Her father had been a generous man, always helping neighbors and strangers alike, even when money was tight. The figure below had stopped near her garage. He stood there for a moment, shoulders shaking from the cold, then sat down heavily on the concrete step. Emma could see his breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. She made a decision. Pulling on her heaviest coat and boots, Emma made her way down the narrow stairs to the alley. The cold hit her immediately, sharp and unforgiving. The man looked up as she approached. His face was weathered, with kind eyes that seemed to hold stories of both hardship and wisdom. "Excuse me," Emma said gently. "Are you looking for somewhere warm to stay tonight?" The man studied her face carefully. "I don't want to be any trouble, miss. Just waiting for the storm to pass." "You'll freeze out here," Emma replied. "I have a garage. It's not much, but it's dry and warmer than this alley. There's an old couch in there, and I can bring you some blankets." The stranger hesitated. "I couldn't impose. You don't even know me." "My name is Emma," she said, extending her hand. "And sometimes we help people simply because it's the right thing to do." "David," he replied, accepting her handshake with calloused fingers. "David Miller. I'm grateful for your kindness, but I should warn you, I might not look like much right now." Emma smiled. "Neither do any of us when we're caught in a storm." She led David to the garage, switching on the overhead light. The space was cluttered with boxes, old furniture, and her stored belongings, but it was indeed warmer than the bitter night outside. The old couch sat against one wall, covered with a paint-splattered sheet. "Make yourself comfortable," Emma said. "I'll be right back with some blankets and maybe some hot soup." When she returned 20 minutes later with supplies, David was sitting quietly on the couch, his backpack beside him. He had removed his wet jacket, revealing a simple sweater that had seen better days. "Here's some vegetable soup," Emma said, handing him a thermos. "And these blankets should keep you warm. There's a small space heater in the corner if you need it." David accepted the offerings with genuine gratitude. "You're very kind, Emma. Most people wouldn't do this for a stranger. Most people are better than we give them credit for," she replied. "They just don't always have the opportunity to show it." As David settled in for the night, Emma noticed something different about him. Despite his worn clothes and tired appearance, he carried himself with a certain dignity. His speech was educated, thoughtful. There was a depth to him that spoke of experience beyond what met the eye. "What brought you here, David?" Emma asked gently, sitting on a nearby crate. "If you don't mind me asking." David was quiet for a long moment, warming his hands around the thermos. "Sometimes life takes unexpected turns," he said finally. "I used to think I had everything figured out. Success, money, all the things people chase. But I learned that those things don't always bring happiness or peace." He paused, looking around the simple garage. "I've been traveling for a while now, learning what really matters. Tonight, your kindness matters more than you know." Emma sensed there was more to his story, but she didn't press. "Well, you're safe here for tonight. That's what matters right now." The next morning, Emma woke to find David already awake, folding the blankets neatly. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world covered in pristine white snow. "Thank you," David said as Emma appeared in the garage doorway. "Your generosity meant everything to me." "I'm glad I could help," Emma replied. "Are you sure you won't stay for breakfast? I make decent pancakes." David smiled, but shook his head. I need to keep moving. But before I go, I want you to have something. He reached into his backpack and pulled out what appeared to be a business card. If you ever need anything, anything at all, please call this number. Emma looked at the card. It was elegant, expensive looking, with embossed lettering that read, David Miller, CEO, Miller Foundation. Below was a phone number and an address in downtown Minneapolis. She looked up at David in confusion. I don't understand. David's weathered face broke into a warm smile. The Miller Foundation provides grants and assistance to people who make a difference in their communities. Teachers, especially, who go above and beyond for others. Emma stared at the card, then back at David. You're not homeless, are you? No, David said gently. But I have been staying in shelters and on the streets for the past month, learning about the challenges people face. My foundation has been funding homeless shelters for years, but I realized I didn't truly understand the experience. Emma felt a mixture of surprise and embarrassment. So this was all some kind of test. No, David said firmly. Your kindness was real, and it mattered. You helped someone you thought had nothing, expecting nothing in return. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. He picked up his backpack and moved toward the door. Emma, teachers like you change lives every day, often without recognition or adequate support. The Miller Foundation has been looking for someone to head our new education initiative. Someone who understands both the challenges teachers face and the power of simple human kindness. Emma's hand trembled slightly as she held the business card. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it, David replied. The position would allow you to help teachers across the state get the resources they need. The salary would be, well, significantly more than you're making now. As David walked away through the snow-covered alley, Emma stood in her garage doorway, watching his figure disappear around the corner. The morning sun cast long shadows across the white ground, and she could hear the gentle drip of melting snow from the garage roof. 3 months later, Emma stood in the offices of the Miller Foundation, looking out at the Minneapolis skyline. As the new director of educational outreach, she had already begun implementing programs to support underfunded schools and provide resources for teachers in need. David appeared in her office doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee. How are you settling in? It still feels surreal, Emma admitted, accepting the coffee gratefully. 6 months ago, I was barely making ends meet, and now I'm helping teachers across the entire state. You were helping people long before you met me, David reminded her. I just provided you with a larger platform. Emma smiled, thinking of that snowy night in December. You know, I've always believed that when we help others, we never know how far those ripples might travel. Indeed, David agreed. Sometimes a simple act of kindness in a garage on a cold night can change everything. Outside the office windows, snow began to fall again, gentle flakes drifting past the glass. Emma watched them for a moment, then turned back to her work, reviewing grant applications from teachers who, like her former self, were simply trying to make a difference in their communities. The stranger in her garage had taught her that kindness has a way of multiplying, creating circles of generosity that extend far beyond what we can see. And sometimes, when we open our hearts to help others, we discover that we've been helping ourselves all along.